after the founder of our club, Sid Brooks. He was the first president of Rotary Club 99 in 1914 and then secretary of the club for a short 38 years afterwards. The award was established to recognize supporters of the Club 99 Foundation and was created to honor the president of the Club Foundation at the time, who passed away suddenly. It's earned via a $1,000 donation to the Club 99 Foundation and can be retained or donated to recognize someone else. Honorees will ask that you please come up as your name is called to receive your award and stay after the meeting so that we can do a group photo. Starting off with Nelson Peacock in memory of Ann and Joe Peacock. Oh, I do that. I was supposed to read off the award, sorry.
We're in a different order, yeah.
We'll start off, you can just hang out up here. You're gonna be here for a while anyway. It was our first, Kelly Bass. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Next we have Leanne Bernat. Bob Birch. Barbara Bullhouse. Christine's mom, she didn't honor her mom. My wife, Kristen Chaco. Rajesh Chokani. Jim Deere. The First Presbyterian Church. Yep. Second Presbyterian Church. Members are in the club here. Thank them all. Natalie Gadati. Did I just read that right? Greg Hatcher. Jeff Hildebrand. I can read that one right away. Andrew Metters. Chris Mangum. Mike Marquez. Beth Mason. Sue and Ed Owens. Dan Parker. And the first shall be last, Nelson Peacock. We entered this year with just shy of 39 recipients for this award. I'm very proud to say we just added 19 recipients to that list, matching half the recipients that we've had in the last 19 years combined. Thank you all for this display of love and care for our local community. It's been simply amazing to see how eager this club was to step up, not just to help a neighbor we know, but a stranger that we have no other connection to, outside of knowing that they need assistance. Thank you for letting Jeff and I be involved with such a great effort.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Thank you, Jeff. Congrats again to everyone. And as he mentioned, we'll be honoring those who are recognizing those who are going to receive these gifts, up to $5,000 each in future meetings. But it's terrific, I think, that within this club we raised more than $20,000 for a handful of struggling families that could use a little extra support after the tornado. So very proud of all of you. Thank you for being a part of such an incredible club. During our La Petite Roche Tricentennial, I have been spending my year as president telling unique stories about our region's past 300 years. And today I'd like to tell a story of a community-led effort that made a significant impact on our region. Herman Kahn arrived in Arkansas in 1870 as a 17-year-old German immigrant. He spoke no English and only chose Little Rock because of a connection to the Gans family. He would work with their family in their downtown dry goods store. He would live in the store above the shop, and he developed a great business acumen and later opening his own store. And by the time he was 30, he had met and married Marion Kahn and committed to raising their family here in Little Rock. Along with other city leaders at the time, he recognized that our community needed a major railway station to grow. And so he made an appointment with the president of the Missouri Pacific Railroad, presumably the uber-wealthy Jay Gould. The president agreed to a meeting with Herman and two other men who represent what is now our Little Rock Regional Chamber. Herman met with the railroad president and in his sumptuous private train car when he came through Little Rock, and he asked for a railroad station. A population in Little Rock at the time was around 40,000 at the turn of the century. The president had said he had never built a railroad station in a town without a major hotel. So, on a handshake deal, they agreed that Herman would build the hotel and the president the railroad station, all in hopes of driving business to our growing community. Named after Herman's beloved wife, Marion, and opened in 1907, the 500-room Hotel Marion had green carpets, bellboys in green uniforms, and a marble fish pond in the lobby. Its bar was named the Garho and featured a large mounted alligator gar. Billed as the meeting place of Arkansas, it was sometimes referred to as the real state capital, since so many legislators congregated there during the legislative sessions, cutting after-hour deals and forging compromises. Famous visitors included Eleanor Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Douglas MacArthur, Helen Keller, and Will Rogers. And in early 1980, after nearly 3/4 of a century serving Central Arkansas, the Hotel Marion and its adjacent Manning Hotel were imploded to make way for a new one, the Excelsior, and the city's new convention center, another major regional effort to improve our community. More than 2 decades later, the Excelsior became the Peabody Little Rock, and after a 10-year run, the Little Rock Marriott. On a handshake deal, a German immigrant pushed forward the development of Little Rock by building a major hotel in exchange for a major railway station, all to help make Little Rock become an important city. So why is this story important? Because the origin of the Hotel Marion speaks to the importance of regionalism and the need for us to come together to build a better tomorrow. It's what our speakers with the Northwest Arkansas Council are doing, and it's what we've done here many, many times before. It was in that spirit that I proposed our Illuminate the Rock theme and the lighting of the Broadway Bridge to bring both sides of the river together, to develop another public-private partnership with a link to our outdoor economy, to promote recreation and wellness and education through the development of a regional coding competition for our urban school districts, inspiring the next generation of tech talent right here at home. Think about it. Wouldn't it be great if we could more fully embrace our region's greatest natural asset in the Arkansas River, with riverfront-facing bars, restaurants, boutique hotels, and other developments? And how cool would it be to have an evening meal or drink in a rooftop bar overlooking a lit Broadway bridge? We've made a lot of progress over the years. The new AMFA is a striking example of a beautiful public-private partnership. But there's so much more that we can and should be doing to enhance our growth prospects and the quality of life here in Central Arkansas. We could go on and on about the possibilities. They're numerous. The proposed River Market revamp, further development of East Village and downtown Argenta, the new downtown vet and dental schools, a 430 to 440 loop, the proposed I-30 deck park, and the remaining 17-acre one that will be ripe for our imaginations. I could go on and on. But I'll leave you this with one thought and a neat connection to our own club. The story of the Hotel Marion is an example of the importance of partnership, collaboration, and teamwork. And that's just as critical today as it was a century ago. They were committed to policies that benefited the entire region, and so should we. And what, you might ask, is that special Club 99 connection to the Hotel Marion? Well, in addition to Herman's great-granddaughter being Club 99er Marion Kahn, club leaders in the 80s placed a plaque near the entrance of the Excelsior to honor our founder, Sid Brooks. On the plaque, it noted the Hotel Marion's location and that in 1914, a group led by Brooks held the first ever Rotary Club meeting in Arkansas. And that's our Illuminating the Rock story for this week. All right, Stacy, former Secretary Stacy Hurst, please join us to introduce today's program.
Thank you, Denver, for this opportunity. Good afternoon. One of the things that business leaders from the communities of Bentonville, Rogers, Springdale, and Fayetteville did right, and there were many, but one of those things they did about 30 years ago was embrace and harness the power of regional collaboration. They had the foresight to see that working together for the good of the region would give them the heft needed to accomplish some heavy lifts. While regional cooperation may sound easy, it's surprisingly not easy. And I can say that as a former Little Rock City Council member. It's typically not something that happens naturally. Rather, you have to work at it. You have to be deliberate. But through the Northwest Arkansas Council, business and community leaders have created a vehicle that in 3 decades of existence has been very effective in creating a better, more productive, and vital region of Arkansas. I am pleased to provide a quick introduction of our panelists. Nelson Peacock is the President and CEO of the Northwest Arkansas Council, and Marshall Savers, the presiding co-chair of the Northwest Arkansas Council, as well as our moderator, Club 99 member Chris Bond. Aside from being Denver Peacock's older brother, which to us, Nelson, is really your claim to fame. You hear that a lot, don't you? Yeah. Nelson has worked in the Clinton presidential administration. He has worked as Assistant Secretary of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Homeland Security under President Obama, and for then Senator Joe Biden on the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. Nelson left a position as Senior VP of Government Affairs for the University of California Office of the President to take the helm in 2017 of the Northwest Arkansas Council. He was born in Fayetteville while his dad was in law school there, correct? But was reared in McCrory. Nelson has deep roots in our state. Marshall Savers is Chief Executive Officer at Cushman & Wakefield Sage Partners. He was born and raised in Little Rock and went to Southern Methodist University, where he earned a degree in business. As presiding co-chair of the Northwest Arkansas Council, Marshall serves as leader of the executive committee. If you Google Marshall, which I did, you can see that he's everywhere, serving on various nonprofit boards throughout Northwest Arkansas. And of course, many of us know Marshall as the son of Mark and Vicki Savers. And you all know our moderator and fellow Club 99 member, Chris Bond. Chris is publisher for business special publications at the Arkansas Business Publishing Group. We'll now have a 1-minute, very brief video, and then we'll hear from our panelists.
Dear family, I'm writing to inform you that we're moving to Northwest Arkansas. Yep, you heard that right. It's not what you think. There's actually a lot going on. 3 huge companies, lots of startups, and your money goes way further. This is a high school. That's the art museum. And that one too. And, well, I guess there's just art all over. And the mountain biking, seriously. We're definitely going on a food tour when we visit. There's a million things to do here. And opportunity everywhere. Maybe that's why everybody's suddenly moving here. Anyway, you'll see. Northwest Arkansas. Life works here.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys being here. I think Stacy alluded to this. So you've got McCrory lived there. Marshall, you've grew up in Little Rock. I lived in Jonesboro, El Dorado, Northwest Arkansas, now Little Rock. And one of the things I hear a lot as I interact with friends from other parts of the state, other regions, is what on earth are they doing up there, and how is it possible to see that kind of growth? And so I appreciate you guys kind of talking through that with us today. I think we've got a slide real quick that gives kind of an overview of the success of Northwest Arkansas. We'll see if we can get that to pop up. Maybe not, and it's fine. You guys have heard, y'all see all the headlines. It's one of the best places to live in the world, and people are moving there. It's 30 people a day, is that right? So there's a ton of momentum up there. But really, the success started with the formation of the council. And so, Nelson, I think just to kick us off, if you could talk through what is the council, how was it formed, and what is it?
Sure, happy to do that. And I've always been Denver's older brother ever since I moved back. So he was my younger brother before I left. But anyway, the council obviously gets a lot of credit for what's happened in Northwest Arkansas. But I would have to say it started with the founding of the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, and then the fact that Sam Walton, Don Tyson, and J.B. Hunt, and Mark Simmons decided to found their companies all in these smaller towns around the region that really helped spur the region's growth. And the council was started, as was mentioned, in the early 90s, and it was Sam Walton actually called together the aforementioned business leaders and other leaders in the region, and basically had a call to action that said, if we're going to continue this trajectory in all of our companies, we have to find a way to work together. We are building these world-class companies. We don't have even a highway to get to our region. If you recall, if you're as old as I am, the Pig Trail is how you get from Fayetteville to Little Rock to I-40. And we don't have an airport that can handle a regional jet. So how do we come together to build the things that we need to allow our companies to grow? And so it was with that spirit in mind, bringing all the mayors, all the business leaders together, and how do we work together to make those things happen, with the understanding that that airport is likely not going to be in your city, but is going to benefit your residents, through the course of time. And so that's how it was founded, and they were successful in getting the airport built and the highway built, and it's just kind of grown from there.
Marshall, Nelson talked about some of the buy-in, obviously, from the business community. the education, higher ed, but also from local chambers of commerce. And I wonder if you could kind of talk about, because there are some strong, thriving, growing chambers there as well, but I wonder if you could talk about how the role of the council is different and maybe how they complement one another.
Yeah, sure. So the easiest answer is on our executive committee, there's a rotating committee member that is from one of these chambers. So that really creates, so they look forward to it, they contribute, they're part of the process. So that really helps. And you got it, so it's Fayetteville, Bentonville, Springdale, and Siloam. I forget one, Rogers, right? So we got 5 that rotate. And so those folks, when they're on, they contribute. They're able to be the voice of the chamber on the board, which is really, really important. And everybody really knows, kind of their lanes and what they're good at. They're promoting their city, which they should be doing, right? We're promoting the region, so it's all for the greater good, and they recognize that. And I think it really started. It's just piggybacking off what Nelson was saying of how the council was formed. So they're continuing that message.
Nelson, I think when I lived up there, I moved here 6 years ago, but when I lived up there, I remember there was a time when maybe the council had like 4 or 5 employees. I wonder if you could talk about kind of the staffing now, how that's grown, and why on earth you need so many people.
Well, my understanding, there was one person at first for the longest time, and focus on infrastructure up till around 2010, and that's when a decision was made that we're going to grow our work in economic development, workforce development, and quality of life. And at that point, they brought in Mike Malone, who many of you may know. They brought in Mike Harvey, who's still at the council, and a few other people to grow those work areas. Now, as we have continued to grow, those continue to be core to what we do, but we've also added an element of healthcare, grounded in economic development, and I can speak to that a little bit later. We also have workforce housing, as well, and we have, importantly, a diversity, equity, and inclusion program. That's one of the only region-wide programs that we're aware of. As we continue to grow in diversity, we've got to make sure that we make that a strength, not a weakness, in Northwest Arkansas. So those have been the core areas. We've got about 15 staff now. Some are full-time employees, other contractors for different areas of work we do. And everything we do is really grounded in how do you build the best economy that you can, but that's more than just recruiting businesses. That's building a place where people want to live. So it's really quality of life, ease of life is a core to what we do.
You mentioned this, and we'll come back to some of these in a minute, but healthcare is a focus right now, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and housing, affordable housing. I think one of the things that is striking to me about the work you guys do, y'all are very upfront and open with what the challenges are. And I think sometimes, I won't speak for other people in this room, having lived up there, sometimes I'm like, golly, man, all I hear is good stuff about what's going on up there. But there are warts. It's okay. You guys can admit that. But I think the importance of acknowledging what the challenges are and then working toward that. And so I wonder if you could speak to a little bit how you identify the challenges that are important enough for the region to tackle together.
Well, first of all, I'd say regionalism isn't easy, right? If you have to give up the mentality that if Fayetteville benefits, Bentonville loses. So, and those conversations do happen. They do take place. There are jealousies amongst the cities, but we keep that in-house to the most part. And then the way we set our priorities, we're open and upfront. Normally we bring in an outside economist, outside experts to help us build a regional strategy that we build in collaboration with all the city leaders, all the business leaders, and we make it public. The last one we did, I guess it was last summer, right. We published it, and it's up there for everyone to see. And those are the things that we're going to work on. And if things change or we have to amend it, then we will make it public and known, and we make it known why. Healthcare, for example, we started to focus on that. The reason that we did it and we made it public is we were losing $1 billion a year from the economy due to outmigration. So people leaving Northwest Arkansas and going to Tulsa or to Houston or Austin to get their health care. That equaled $1 billion a year. That got everyone's attention, and it made it easy to rally around solving that problem.
Yeah, and I would say too that Nelson, you're constantly tasked, you and your team, with not being complacent, right? I mean, we're always trying to look ahead, but you're right. There's plenty of things to work on, and we want to make those known and work on them and provide the support to do that. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the final thing on that is we do get philanthropic funding from the Walton Family Foundation and the Tyson Foundation, but the majority of our funding comes from the business community, and they pay dues to us to do this work, but they don't look at it like, oh, what's in it for us? What's in it for me specifically or my company specifically? It is basically a donation for the good of the region, and they allow the professional staff to set the priorities and move forward on a region-wide basis. We've got nearly 100 members, and most of those, there's no direct member services. And that has happened over time. We continue to grow. We have members. We don't have a new member every meeting, but we grow deliberately in ways. If you're joined, you know what you're getting into, and that's you may not see anything back on your bottom line directly, but you will see it in the growth of the region.
And it's not just the biggest companies, right? It's also companies that help the community out. I mean, everybody's got a place, to Nelson's point. And you know, he really he called me and said, hey, thanks a lot, because when he was hired in 2017, the first thing we asked him to do is raise dues on all the members, which hadn't been raised since 1990-ish. Right? So it was a considerable raise that needed to happen for the vibrancy of the council, and frankly, to support all the things we were just talking about. So that's something we thought, boy, there's going to be a lot of pushback on that. I think we had one or two companies maybe push back, but for the most part, everybody knew they needed to step up.
Yeah. We didn't raise dues, we doubled dues.
Yeah, I was being nice.
We had metrics of how much we were going to fund and grow before I got there, and I wasn't aware during the interview process that would be accomplished.
We didn't think it was a good thing to bring up at that point, yeah.
It's a other duties as assigned thing, yeah. I don't know if we want to get into specifics of dues, but Marshall, I'm going to come back to you. If you want to give us a range of what that looks like, you're welcome to. But I think the follow-up to that is, what is the benefit that you guys see and that other companies see? Why do you keep coming back even after this guy doubles your dues?
Well, I can say it's different for everybody, right? Some want to give just to help the region out, and that's great. Others, you know, if you're in healthcare, right? You know, the council is very involved in healthcare. If you're involved in infrastructure work, you know, we're trying, you know, very, very hard to improve the infrastructure in the area. So there's all kinds of different reasons to do that. And everybody's frankly a little bit different, but I think as we continue to build out the team, Nelson's team, the folks are seeing the benefit of that more and more. I think Nelson, this predates probably both of us, but I think at the start it was really just for the good of the region. Right now we're getting more specific as we get more granular on each issue. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, there is a due structures based on size of company type and then size of company. I think everyone can figure out who pays the most dues up there, and then it goes all the way down. Most companies pay $5,000 to $10,000, so it's not a ton, but it gives enough to have a permanent staff and cell phones and computers and the things that you need to do to wake up every day focusing on these things that you're just not going to do with temporary part-time people. And so that allows us the infrastructure. So if there is a grant from a foundation, that we have the ability to execute on it.
Yeah, and I think this is an important point here. Certainly, the three companies that you would expect, the three families you would expect up there, are involved at a high level. But this isn't just those three that are footing the bill for all of the work.
Not even close. Yeah, most of it's funded by the companies, you know, the 100 companies in the region that are members.
Nelson, you alluded to this as we were kicking it off, and you said really the success of the region goes back to the founding of the university. We're talking a lot about the importance of getting businesses plugged in here, but I wonder if you could speak to healthcare entities and then also higher ed, and why that has been so important to include them in those conversations and the work that's being done.
Yeah, well, I mean, the university provides two major things. Well, obviously a workforce, and it's statewide mission, so it's going to do that here, the University of Arkansas, and other higher education institutions, and I include our community colleges in that as well. So that's really critically important. The other thing is innovation and entrepreneurship that flows from the university. We did an analysis, I guess 3 years ago, and the University of Arkansas is, I mean, let's just be honest, one of the lowest performing when it comes to taking innovation, patentable technology, and getting it out into the market stream. And so we have put forth a plan to get students, researchers, and others integrated into the business community and get them the tools to pull that out. We bring in millions and millions of dollars. It was around $450 million the last time I checked of research funding, which is great for society. But if you know anything about the way federal dollars are flow, the university owns that intellectual property. That's the way the government sets it up. So they can take that out and monetize it if we just have the incentive structure in place to do that. That's going to benefit the entire state. When we were in University of California, it was a discussion for every single one of those institutions. And if you look at Silicon Valley, if you look at biotech in San Diego, that is one of their major focuses. In addition to educating students, the university has not done that over time. That's the reason for the investment in I3R and other efforts. And I think they're making a lot of progress. It's got to make sure it benefits the entire state. Certainly a lot of efforts around that here in Central Arkansas, but higher education institutions are core to quality of life, workforce, and entrepreneurship, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that, I mean, it certainly was probably the either number one or two thing when going through the hiring process for Nelson that we were looking for as a board was somebody that could help do what he just said. And obviously with his experience at the University of California, that really helped. And just as, for instance, I have my University of Arkansas Tech board meeting right after this, which is really, we're starting to see the benefits of that. So it's something that Central Arkansas should be focused on as a region as well as Northwest Arkansas.
And again, I appreciate just the candor here to say, hey, here was an area we were lacking. Yeah. We've got to get better. Marshall, I wonder if you could kind of speak to how you guys prioritize regional priorities. We've got a pretty good airport here, so we don't need to think through that. But how did, from the beginnings of it coming together to form the airport, how do you decide what you're going to target and then what becomes important enough for the council to adopt it and move?
Well, Nelson mentioned the report that came out last year, and then there was one previous to you, right? There's about every 4 or 5 years we seem to do these reports. And so those are intense. I mean, you're bringing in basically almost any member that wants to participate, as well as other community leaders to tell us where we're lacking and what we need to improve upon. And then you guys do a great job of polling. I mean, we just got some polling results recently that we reviewed at our last board meeting, right? Of where can we improve? I mean, on all different facets. So it's constant, as kind of cliche or as it sounds. It's just constant communication and knowing that you're not perfect, and then going out and addressing those and making them known.
Well, yeah, and it's also putting pen to paper on what you hear in your community every day. I'm sure every one of you know what Little Rock needs to work on, what the regional, what you need to address. I see part of it right out here. Those things come to light. What we've done, and I'm sure it's no different than groups around here, is we take comprehensive input and we put it on a sheet of paper or a booklet and get leaders to sign off on it. So when we come back to them and say, hey, participate with us on program X, Y, or Z, there's no surprise, it's written down, and then we can all kind of move forward collectively.
Yeah, it makes a high level of accountability there for sure.
So you guys mentioned you only got pushback from one or two folks when you doubled dues a few years ago. What happens when my regional priority doesn't get adopted as the number one thing? How do you navigate that, or do you see that much at all?
That has not happened. I think there's always, it's a 20-page document. There's always parts of it that people may disagree with, but I think the overall push forward and the fact that we have a track record of success, I think, we don't hear any complaints. We will hear areas where we would like for you to emphasize one or the other thing more, but by and large, there's no complaints like that. I think some cities would like a little more focus, let's be honest, but I think everyone accepts the fact, and they're actually if all these leaders get together and adopt something, it's hard to be the lone wolf out there screaming this isn't right, because we've already lined up all the important, or most of them, around a certain set of priorities. And pretty much so far, knock on wood, everyone sticks to that.
I think we covered this earlier, but I just want to reiterate, Marshall, we talked about some of the recent studies that have been done, how those are funded. Certainly, there are some big-name companies that are funding those, but also not always who you would think. So I wonder if you can kind of talk about that and who steps up to fund certain things. How does that work? Is that collectively everybody pays a certain amount to fund, or there are individual companies funding?
Individual companies, depending on what specific issue it is. One thing, and Nelson can elaborate on this too, but we recently had a talk about workforce, just workforce in general. Right now, how many empty jobs are there in Northwest Arkansas?
I think like 11,000.
Right. So what that means is there's some of these companies that have much more of a delta than others, right? And those are the ones that want to contribute their time and energy and money, frankly, more to help fill those jobs so that they can do better and recruit better, right?
Well, here's a specific example. The state under Governor Hutchinson, I think it's been expanded this last session, is an apprenticeship program in various technology areas. There's also other ones in skills trades, but most of our companies up there they didn't want to deal with the state. They didn't want to deal with what they thought was a hassle. But it's basically a free employee for a year. And so you get to test them out. And so we've spent a lot of our time going to all these companies that need tech workers and explaining them to the program and identifying these candidates and then actually helping them onboard them. And so we've grown. I think we have about 2/3 of all the apprentices up there, not only because of job need, but because we've been out there doing the work, explaining to businesses how good of a program this is. So that's an example of, that's free state money that the majority of companies are leaving on the table, and it's good public policy to get all these, it's good for employers and employees, and so that's a little bit of the go-between we serve.
You mentioned workforce, and that's every person in here is either fighting that challenge or is reporting on that challenge or hearing about the challenge. COVID really changed some things dynamically with this idea. For a lot of folks, you can work remote, you can work from anywhere. You guys have really tapped into that with the LifeWorks Here initiative. The Little Rock Chamber recently launched something similar to incentivize people to move here, or even a matchmaker program. If I get you to move in from out of state for one of a handful of businesses, I get a bonus. I wonder if you could outline LifeWorks Here, why you did it, the marketing boost you guys saw, the awareness boost. We could spend 2 hours talking about this.
So LifeWorks Here was an effort. You saw the video. That was one of the main videos that we did to market Northwest Arkansas as a good place for work, good place to live. We found out, this was pre-COVID, that despite all these things that were happening there that we thought were really amazing, there were all these open jobs, and really no one had heard of Northwest Arkansas, and we wanted to test that thesis, and so we did the research. We found about 30% or so of kind of younger millennial-type workers around the country that even heard of any city in Northwest Arkansas. Little Rock was around 75%, so congratulations. But we were like, wow, what can we do to help boost our profile? How are you going to accept a job in a place you've never even heard of? So we started the LifeWorks Here campaign that has several components. One is the marketing campaign, and we targeted cities where our major employees were already recruiting, other than New York and LA and San Francisco, because it was just too expensive. But we looked at places like Minneapolis, Denver, Austin, Atlanta, and Dallas, places where we had a connection, but also that we thought that people would appreciate the lifestyle and the quality of life, and started targeting them digitally. And then we did some ads and some billboards and really drove attention to Northwest Arkansas. And then we also did the incentive campaign, which is the $10,000 incentive to move, and we added $10,000 in a bike. And through that, we ended up getting, we didn't know what we were going to get, but we got over 66,000 applicants from every state in the country, and I forget 32 or something countries around the world. I would say, maybe a third of those were really quality candidates. So we took that. We only offered 100 of these applicants, so it really wasn't trying to get people to move. It was really a branding effort, and we really got some good people there. But the more importance was all the earned media that we got, and also the fact that we have 30, 40,000 people in our talent network. So if a company has a job, they can tap into that and say, hey, you've expressed interest in relocating, we've got a job available for you. And so through the course of that, we've moved our awareness from 30% aided awareness up to around 65%. We didn't retest Little Rock, so I don't know where you are now. But I think you need to use those to fill niche markets or niche types of workers, and you need to do that to help build your brand.
I've got one more question for both of you guys, and then we'll open it up to the audience for questions. I think a lot of folks, and I alluded to this as we started, a lot of folks think Northwest Arkansas, it's lightning in a bottle, that can't be replicated, and I wonder if you guys could give us some best practices or some encouragement when you look at the major employers we have here, you look at the location that we have a university here, on and on. It seems to me, and maybe I'm overly optimistic, it seems like we could do a regional effort here, Little Rock, North Little Rock, tap into Conway, wherever, but do you guys have some kind of guidance there or encouragement or words of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, clearly it can be done here. It can be done anywhere. You have all the building blocks that you need. What I would think is, if you're trying to do regionalism, get business leaders from every community, not just Little Rock, but all around, and come together, put some money into some research and figure out where you want to focus. Pick one or two things and go fix those things. Don't make it everything to start. We started with an airport and a road, which is what we needed, and then build from there. You have to have something where everyone's going to keep coming to the table and participating with their time, which is probably more important than their money. And if you get that, then everyone will rally behind that. It'll be hard for city council members or mayors in any of these communities to say no to something if everyone stands together from the business community that says, this is what it takes to grow our region, to make it a better place. And that's what we've done. I mean, I don't think Marshall and I can take credit for the culture that's there. It was established well before I got there, but it's because of those leaders that made it that way. No one, I don't think, cares what Marshall and I say or ask them to do. It's what the people behind us are asking.
Yeah, totally agree. And besides the nuts and bolts and mechanics of it, like Nelson was talking about, I just think, obviously, being from Little Rock, my parents are here, my father-in-law's here, which I appreciate. But, there's so much to build off of here, especially when you think about the quality of life initiatives and the outdoor recreation that we're really piggybacking off of. Little Rock has that, right? So there's things here to build off of, and you've got all these major corporations here as well. So, the foundation's here, but then you've got to put it in action, like Nelson said. But yeah, absolutely, it can be replicated.
Yeah, and I think you have to find a way to keep it from being Little Rock centric. I don't think that the outlying communities will participate the way you need them to. We are fortunate that most of the cities up there, they're all about the same size. They're all on the same kind of growth trajectory. They're all different and unique, but there's not one center, and they believe that if they're not at the table, then they're going to miss out. And so that keeps them coming back, and it's really helped, I think, build a spirit of collaboration. Of course, like I said, there are issues. There's a lot of issues, but we kind of keep it under the radar, and everyone keeps showing up at the meetings.
I appreciate that color. We've got time, I think, for one question. Anybody? Oh, yep, Randy.
What's the difference between this kind of emphasis in Central Arkansas?
So what's the difference between the Northwest Arkansas Council and that effort and something like Central Arkansas's Metro Plan?
I don't know what the Central Arkansas Metro Plan is. What I would say is that our effort is different and apart from infrastructure planning. Like, we're not planners. We're not planning where the roadway goes or where the infrastructure goes. What we do is convene the leaders for them to figure it out. and we make sure that the business community is comfortable with that. We focus really on, priorities, like, you have your highway construction project out there. What we were able to do, for example, with our Bella Vista bypass, and it's hard to believe that there's only been a major interstate running through Northwest Arkansas the last year and a half. And really, it was only because the council that has access to funding through our member dues was able to go up to Missouri and lobby the Missouri governor to build to the state line. And there was a whole mismatch between our highway funding and their funding, but no one was going to do that in Missouri because that was a rural part of town. They didn't care about the booming, what was happening across the state line. So we had to go do that. So I think that's when I say you get your regional priorities and figure it out. Figure out those one or two things that everyone will benefit from and focus on them. Then you build credibility. You establish a reason why people want to contribute to your organization and participate, come to the meetings, give you money for staff, and then that's how you build from there.
All right, excellent. Nelson, Marshall, appreciate you guys.
Marshall, well, of course, Stacy, thank you so much, and Chris, great job. Nelson as well, appreciate you being here today. The part of our literacy effort we're doing at Club 99 is giving gifts to all our speakers. It's our speaker gift, so each of you are going to get a book from a Little Rock Connected author that reinforces our role in literacy, and next week we're going to present these to the Little Rock School District librarian. There's 25 elementary school resource centers and libraries are going to get books from Club 99, and every speaker from this year will be inside each of those books, and your names will be among them. So really appreciate you guys being here today. Sid Brooks folks, honorees, please come up. Appreciate you, and let's do a group photo. And then my farewell address is next week, pass the baton to Natalie. Don't miss it. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you. Let's do a photo.